Hi, Jillian. Thanks so much for reaching out about your exam. I'm so sorry that we couldn't meet together live. Our schedules couldn't sync up, but I hope that this does help you. So let me get my pencil tool here. So I went ahead and pulled all the questions, the ones that you had missed. This was the first one. It says to use the quadratic formula to solve the equation. So the quadratic formula, you can find that on your formula sheet. It's this one right here. So let me go ahead and write that. So it's negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So don't forget that you can use this formula sheet on any test in our class, and then also if you're taking the SOL, you'll have access to this on the SOL. So the first step is to identify what is A, what is B, and what is C. And as long as your equation is in standard form, you can just pull the numbers right off of it. Standard form is when the exponent is going decreasing order. So we have squared first, and then a 1, and then nothing. So this is in standard form. So that means A is 5, the number right in front, B is negative 13, and C is 7. Once you have your numbers, all we're going to do is plug them into this formula. The most, I guess, tricky part is you want to be careful with your negatives. So this is a negative B, but our B is already negative. So make sure you include both of those negatives, the negative that's in the formula and the actual B value. Plus or minus, the plus or minus just tells us we're going to have two solutions. And you can see down here the correct answers are the plus and the minus. All right, and we'll plug in B again. That's negative 13. And then A is 5 and C is 7. Once you have the numbers plugged in, it's going to be using PEMDAS, order of operations, and your calculator, honestly. Just be careful when you use your calculator. You can't really, I wouldn't recommend plugging this whole thing in because they don't want a decimal answer. They want it to be in this simplified form using the quadratic formula. So negative times negative, that's a positive. Here's where I would use my calculator, like negative 13 squared. I have no idea what that is. So let's go to our Desmos. Hopefully my Desmos will work. Wake up, Desmos. Okay, so that's not working for some reason. Let's open it on here. There we go. And we'll just type negative 13 squared. It's positive 169. Put that here. And then we can do 4 times 5 times 7. And why not? Let's use our calculator. 4 times 5 times 7. It's 140. So that's going to be minus 140 all over 10. All right, we're almost there. 169 minus 140 is 29. Now here's where you want to look and just make sure that whatever's under the radical is reduced as far as it will go. So if we come over here and try to make a factor tree for 29, you think, okay, what times what is 29? You can even use your calculator if you want, like, oh, let me try 3. No, that didn't work. What about 2? No, that didn't work. 29, I think 29 is prime. Yep, 29 is prime. There are no other factors of 29. So that means it's reduced as far as it will go. So these are your two answers, 13 plus root 29 over 10 and 13 minus root 29 over 10. So anytime they're asking you to use that quadratic formula, this is what you're going to do. I'm wondering if you just put it in decimal form. So let's see. 13 plus root 29 over 10. 13 plus root 29, and then all of that divided by 10. $1.83. There's the 1.83 that you got. All right, and then let's do minus. Then we're going to replace this. 7.614835. Oops, hold on. 7.61483519. 0.76. There's the 0.76 that you got. So I'm wondering if maybe you just didn't write it in this form, or perhaps you used your calculator. If you were to graph this and found where it crossed. Bottom line is you did technically get the correct answers. Like you know what it means to have a solution. It did specify simplified radical form. So I am going to give you the points back for this because you did get the answers correct. You just put it in the wrong form. So because I have access to the back end of this test, I can do that and I can make that decision. Just be super careful moving forward on any test that you take, especially ones where like you don't have access to the teacher, like STAR 360 tests coming up. I can't change those grades. Or the SOL, if you're taking that, I can't change those grades. So I can change this though because I can see that you got the right answer. You just maybe didn't read the instructions carefully enough or forgot how to put them in those forms. So I am going to give you the credit back, but just make sure that you remember to read those instructions and put them in the form that they're asking for. All right, let's look at the next one. Solve the system of equations. So there's a few ways that you can solve systems of equations. You can do it algebraically using algebra, and we had a few different ways, substitution and elimination. Substitution, this would be a really good one for substitution because check it out. Y is already solved for. So you could take this and plug it into here. But honestly, at this point, we've also learned about graphing. So, whoops, I'm going to write these down. I'm going to show you on your calculator. And I see you have some partial credit there. Let's look at the solution. So we're going to graph this on the Desmos graphing calculator. And you can type it in exactly as you saw it. 13x minus y equals 90. And x squared minus x. What was it? Hold on. Oh, y equals x squared minus x minus 42. You don't really have to put y equals when it's already solved for y, but you can. It'll be the same thing. Okay, let's try to find these two graphs. Where are they? There they are. Ooh, that is very wonky. Where'd it go? Hold on. They're so close together, it is hard to see graphically. So we might actually want to do this one algebraically. And you can't really see where they're, well, you know what I mean? I mean, it tells you, when you click it, Desmos will give you those dots, so that's nice. It will tell you like the intersections, 6, negative 12, 8, and 14. And it's telling you the x-intercept here, but when you're talking about solutions to a system, it's where the lines cross. So that's going to be the negative, 6, negative 12, and 8, 14. So let's see, what did you put? Oh, I see. So you accidentally included the x-intercept instead of the other intersection point. So just be careful about that. That's a tricky one, honestly, because it does appear that they might be crossing there as well. But if that ever happens, you can test it. If you're like, oh, it kind of looks like it's crossing, let me see. So this is the point that's in question, the one that's along the x-axis. So if this is a solution to this system, then it will work in both equations. So let's try it. 13 times 7 minus, I'm just plugging in the x and the y. What is 13 times 7? I have no idea. Probably 90. Oh, hold on. 13 times 7 is 91. So 91 minus 0 is 90. 91 does not equal 90. So this point does not work in the first graph. So that must mean that it belongs to the second graph. Let's try it. If we plugged in 7, or I'm sorry, 0 for y and 7 for x, 49 minus 7 minus 42. 49 minus 7 is 42, and 42 minus 42 is 0. So it does work in the second equation, which means that belongs to that second line. In order for it to be a solution, it would have to belong to both. So that's why this point is not part of that answer. Item number 7. So here's two graphs. What are the solutions to the equation? So they give you the graph and they just want to know, where are they crossing? And they're crossing at the 2 points that they've indicated here. It's -1, 1. I'm sorry, -1, 2. Ooh, that is tricky. You see that? The grid marks are going by 2's. So I knew that was -1, but this is 2. 2, 4, 6, 8. All right, this is -2, 4. So they gave you all the numbers you see, but when we're talking about solutions and they only do one value, it's always the x value. Always the x value. So that's why it is -2 and -1. Those are the correct solutions because those are the x values of those points. So sometimes you'll give solutions as a coordinate point, and sometimes they just want the x. And because they gave you, like it was like multiple choice, then you would know that they're always wanting the x value. What are the zeros of the function? Enter your answers in the box. All right, let's graph this and see. Now, a zero is another word for solution. Or, let's see, zeros, solutions, intercepts, x-intercepts. It's going to be where this crosses the x-axis. So x squared plus 7x minus 18. Let's see, x squared plus 7x minus 18. We'll move over. So it's 2, 0 and -9, 0. What did you put? So you put 2 and 0. So maybe you were grabbing like this whole coordinate point. So this is another case where they're asking for the solutions and they wanted those x values, the 2 and the -9. So that's the one that was missing here, -9. And the reason they're called zeros is that's because these happen when y is 0. So that's another name for those. So it says, this one says graph the parabola by first plotting its vertex and then plotting a second point on the parabola. So we did not learn how to graph these by hand, but I left this in there because I knew you guys had access to Desmos, so I kind of figured it would be all right. But let's look. 2x squared plus 16x plus 31. There we go. So you just want to get some points on it. There's the vertex, -4, -1. So it looks like you accidentally graphed -4, -2. And then We have some other coordinate points. You wouldn't be able to plot those on the answers because you need whole number answers. So you just would want to click through on the graph until you find a whole number. Dun, 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 dun. That's challenging, isn't it? Yeah, I don't like this problem. Yeah, I think I'm going to give everybody points back for this because I left it in there thinking that you guys could very easily just use Desmos. But I realize now that the OMHS graphing tool is super sensitive. But hopefully too, now you're realizing, okay, this is the vertex and this should have been, based on this graph, that's definitely at -4, -1. Item 14, the equation of the linear regression line represents the relationship between the amount of time in minutes people spend using their cell phone. So X is time. And the number of text messages they send, that's Y. What does the slope of the line represent? So remember, slope is the number in front of the X. So our slope is 21 over 5. And I don't know why, but whenever I think of slope, I think of miles per gallon. And I know we're not talking about miles per gallon, but it always helps me. You can also think of it this way, miles per gallon. It helps me sort of visualize what a slope is. So this is something per something. So what does the 21 represent? And what does the 5 represent? Is what you kind of have to think about. Miles per gallon, what per what? So you chose for every 21 minutes the people spent using their cell phone, the number of text increases by 5. And it's actually for every 5 minutes the people spent using their cell phone, the number of texts they send increases by 21. So it's 21 texts per 5 minutes. Text per minute. And another way to sort of remember this is remember what is slope. The slope is change in y over the change in x. The change in y over the change in x. And we know y represents text messages. So it's text messages, change in y, over x represents time, minutes, time. So if you also can remember it this way, you can sort of match up. Okay, what is y? Oh, that's text. Text per time. Text per minute. And the last one, select strong, weak, or moderate. So when we looked at the R value, the correlation coefficient, we looked at a number line between 0 and 1 and then -1. So the closer you are to 1 or -1, the stronger you are. The closer to 0, the weaker. So if it's closer to 1, that's a strong positive. Closer to -1, that's a strong negative association. So let's look and see. 0.6. 0.6, so here's 0.5. 0.6 is just above 0.5. So it's definitely closer to the middle, right? So we would call that moderate. I say middle, like between 0 and 1. So that's a good way to figure out where moderate is. It's kind of halfway in between weak and strong. So that one would be moderate. -0.95. I think I understand why you chose weak, because maybe you were thinking negative means weak, but it's strong. It's just a strong negative. So the closer you are to 1 or -1, the stronger you are. So that would be strong. And then you got the other two right. Great job. I mean, honestly, that was the last one that you missed. So you're going to get 10 points added back to your grade. And I have to tell you that this was a challenging test. I mean, you're taking a challenging course. So I think you did pretty well. Really, honestly. And the two questions, like I said, I totally understand where you're coming from with this one. And then we're going to get the points added back for this one for everybody because OMHS graphing tools can be strange. You have to get it right on a grid mark, so I totally get that. But when I look at the questions you did get right, those were definitely the harder ones, like factoring and things like that. So I'm super proud of you. I hope that this video helped, but if you need any more help, just reach out and I'm happy to try to meet with you. Bye.